Hi everyone, thanks for coming in for the second Drupal workshops. I'm Adrian. Let me introduce you to the web team that's bringing you this workshop. It's Jeff from AltDi, it's Kathy from ASU UTO, it's Kelly, and this is Chris. Hi Nancy. Well, to get started, we made a slight change in our agenda today. Because we are going to switch to Drupal 5 pretty soon, we're still evaluating how Drupal 5 impacts all our ASU modules. So the administrative functions, even though they stay the same, they have changed slightly, better organized right now. But for today, we figured we'll do a question and answer session if you guys have any questions about Drupal, having had a chance to go play with Drupal. Does anyone have any questions right now? Sure.
With importing existing pages, it seems like there's one particular module right now, the import HTML module, that requires XSL, the XSL extension to be installed, and we're wondering about if that will be installed either in the current environment. Have you switched to PHP 5? We heard
not quite yet
about that.
Not quite yet. We're just testing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little while.
Okay. I don't know if that XSL extension is something you can install so that that import HTML.
I'll let the systems guys know so they can actually try to put it in.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's one thing that.
Yeah, I can see it. It's like in a glass bowl. I can't touch.
Yeah. I don't know if have you guys played with trying to import existing pages at all?
Jeff?
I've only really done it from WordPress, and there's a, it's not on Drupal.org, but I've got it bookmarked somewhere. And if you Google for WordPress to Drupal, someone wrote a module that works for 4.7, and is looking for someone to help upgrade it to 5.0. And that works pretty well. And that'll migrate content, comments, users, stuff like. I just came across it like the other day. Right. But aside from that, anytime I've done a site where we've used Drupal, it's been a fairly large shift from what the site currently is, and so like content is changing too. So we haven't really done.
All right, it's been a new fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have, in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, I'm looking to move people over from AFS to the new Drupal environment. And just in AFS, we also have departments that have their own servers. Just in AFS, we have over 300 sites.
Yeah.
So for our office to even think about manually moving pages one by one, it's not going to work.
There's also an import-export API. Are the sites you're working with, do most of them have a fairly standard template?
Do you mean a Dreamweaver template or just a template as far as they look?
I'd say as far as the underlying HTML code, is it fairly standard between?
It's hit and miss. I would not say that most of them are fairly standard.
Because what I was going to say is, like, with the import-export API, you could turn your existing HTML into this XML format on your side, so without relying on the server, having the XSL extensions and stuff like that, and then you could do the import through that. But doing the transforms on the content is going to be a lot of work. I don't know.
And I didn't investigate. The meetings are Wednesday at 1, but we don't need to start. And it's on the fourth floor in the top section of the screen, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Sorry, we're trying to figure out why the screen is so dim. Do you know how to brighten it?
Unless they change the projector.
I just wonder if maybe the light bulb is shining.
You can probably dim the lights at the back to make it.
Yeah.
I will adjust it.
All right, Adrian's going to try and figure out if we can make it brighter. So for those of you who haven't used it yet, this is Drupal 5. This is what it looks like sort of out of the box. If you played with Drupal 4.7, you'll notice that this is a lot different. It's actually a lot prettier than the default theme for Drupal 4.7. And one of the huge changes, before I get too far, how many of you have actually used Drupal 4.7 in the host environment? You've at least just logged in and seen what it's like, right? So one of the big changes was simply just a UI change to how the administration area works. When you click on Administer now, you have pretty much everything available to you straight from this page right here. And it's really just more organized, helps you from having an admin menu that is like 50 items long, which I have on some sites. And you can just sort of jump into wherever you need to go from here. I'll jump into the modules section, which is where a lot of the fun stuff happens. With 5.0, there's a new way of managing modules. And it's pretty, UI-wise, it's pretty similar, but in terms of how things work, it's a little bit different. So you've got core modules that cannot be disabled. And then you've got all these other modules that you can enable. And these are pretty much the same modules as come in 4.7, but you'll see this required by or depends on listed in each of the modules. Some of them don't require anything or don't depend on anything. But what's really nice about this is you can, if you go to install a module that depends on another module, the module knows and it'll tell you if it needs a module that you don't have. Or if you've got a module that it depends on but you haven't activated it, it'll activate it for you. Really nice usability improvement. It sort of prevents you from making mistakes that in the past were really sort of cryptic, like you wouldn't really know what had happened and why a module wasn't working on your site. One of the other nice things is under site configuration now, the default theme is, it's under site building. The default theme, Garland, has this fun little configuration window where you can actually change the colors on the page. So you can kind of see things get updated here as I move things around. And this has been really nice just to help people kind of get something sort of personalized up and something that's just, it looks different than the default theme, and something you can just start using that's sort of personally branded. Other than that, a lot of the things in Drupal 5 from the user standpoint are pretty similar to 4.7. Creating content still works pretty much the same. And you just have these forms here to do it. Let's see. Administering users and things like that is still pretty much the same. So do you guys have questions about Drupal 5? Yeah.
And where you just showed how to customize the look, if we're using, and I assume we all are, using the new university template, how will that function work within like a text box or something to?
The university theme won't have this sort of customizability. I mean, I guess, you know, we could take some time to build it like that, but I guess I'd have to know a good reason why we want it.
Speaking of the university we do.
Yeah.
Speaking of the university theme, I don't know if there's any technical advice on how to execute what would sort of be like a theme within a theme. If the university theme is more or less just a header and a footer, and then units wanted to be able to do their own thing inside, but their own thing would be consistent page to page, you'd want that to also be a theme, but you'd want the surrounding header and footer to not be something that they could edit. So I don't know if you have any advice on how to set up. It's more or less like a template within a template.
Yeah, there's a theme I've used called Blue Breeze that has sort of has what you're asking for. So when you drop the theme into your themes folder, there's a subfolder within it called Blue Breeze _ fixed, and it's like a fixed width version of that theme. But sort of taking that concept, you could just sort of run with it and do something similar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can.
Yeah, sure.
Other
For 2
questions?
seconds.
Otherwise, I was going to sort of jump in and talk about some modules. Yeah.
Yeah, question like I already am using one of the themes in 4.7, and I tried switching to a different theme, and it goes like all out of order. Is there a way like you take picture of it?
Are you saying like the blocks and things like that are out of order? Or
Yeah, like what are the pages that I have posted? So like what are the contents of that? When I switch to a different theme, it's like it doesn't adjust itself according to the new theme.
well,
Is that an issue? Like,
and this might be more of a complicated conversation than I can get into right now, but themes can do, like with themes, you can control pretty much how anything on the system is output. So, just briefly, the way Drupal works is you've got sort of if you're familiar with other programming languages, sort of a model view controller sort of thing happening. So you've got data that gets read in from the database and then modified, and then it gets themed and output. And your theme can override the output of different pieces of content. So depending on what theme you're using, it may be modifying how certain things are output. The other piece of that is, wait till we get the screen back on, but your block configuration, when you go to administer blocks, it's...
Sorry about that, I'm trying to fix the projector.
Okay. You can have different... Here, let me bring up the lights for the front one. That's better.
Do the whiteboard, just draw it all out.
Yeah. So you can have different block configurations for each theme that you have enabled on the site. So that may be another sort of culprit of what you're experiencing. So if you enable another theme, I think it'll take the block configuration of whatever the active theme is, but you can enable like 5 or 6 different themes and let users choose between them. So I'm not too sure where the particular problem you're having is starting, but those would be the 2 places to start with. we're waiting on. Adrian posted anywhere the notes or the list of those modules. Did you post anywhere the list of those modules? That's okay. Well, I can just, I've got a site up there. I'll just go to our site.
Adrian, can you show the front lens?
So let me log into the web community site. And I'll show you guys, I'm going to talk about modules for a second. And because we didn't really get a chance to cover sort of, there are the core modules that come with Drupal, but last time we didn't really get to cover other modules that we sort of consider essential to any of the sites we're doing. So I'll talk about those, and I'll also talk about other sort of core modules that I recommend activating once you've installed Drupal. So I'll show you on the 4.7 version of Drupal here first. So on the web community site, and you'll see a big UI improvement to this area of Drupal when I jump into 5.0, but we tend to use,
No problem.
if I'm doing anything that's heavily focused on content,
Thanks.
like most Drupal sites are, but if I'm not doing like a brochure site, but I'm doing a site that's more like users can submit large amounts of content, you know, variable types of content, things like that, I always like to install the audio module, and down on the bottom there is the video module. Both allow for exactly what you would think, uploading audio and video files to Drupal, and they're sort of treated as a separate type of content. But the advantage to using them is, like the audio module provides a little play button to play the audio file. The video module handles all the code to render a player onto your web page for whatever format video you're using. So you don't have to worry about knowing the code to embed QuickTime onto your web page. It just takes care of it for you. And let's see, image. Image was the other main content type that I like to install a module for. That gives you the ability to upload images as nodes within Drupal, and then depending on what category you give it, you get image galleries based on image categories, which is kind of fun. Other things, I'll just go down this list here. A lot of times you want to enable the blog module. The blog module lets every user on the site have their own blog. We didn't want to have that for the web community site because we did something a little different that I'll get into in a second. There's also the book module that lets you do sort of web-based handbooks. I think the best example of that is Drupal.org, and then click on the Handbooks tab. It's sort of their manuals for Drupal. Another core one that's really valuable is the contact module. It provides contact forms for anyone who's had their email address sitting on a web page for a long time. You know the kind of spam you start to get. The contact module basically allows you to remove your email address from your website because you can have people fill in a contact form instead. From personal experience, you will still get spam, but it's going to be a little bit more controlled than it would have been before. So I'll come back to this content module in a second, because that's a big one. If you're doing any sort of development, I recommend the devel module. It lets you do things, I don't think I have it enabled right now, but it lets you do things like empty Drupal's page cache, view PHP info, just sort of essential things you would need to do as mostly a module developer, just to be able to make sure Drupal's running in the right state. The forum module is a core module that isn't enabled by default, but it provides exactly what you would think, discussion forums. Front page is another nice module. Lets you set up different page states for the front page depending on user roles and things like that. Like I said, the image module.
What do you mean by that, Joe?
So by default, the front page, you can configure it to point to one location, to like a particular node within the system. And a lot of times that works just fine, but sometimes you want to like make your front page completely different. Like you don't want to have any of the Drupal interface in it. So the front page module lets you say, I don't want to show Drupal at all, I want to show this content in here. Or if the user has this role, I want them to go to this page, and if they have this role, I want them to go to this page. So you can just do fun stuff like that. Here's a couple of really good ones. IMCE, and sort of what it depends on is TinyMCE. It's a rich text editor. I'm going to jump in and show you how that works. So TinyMCE gives you the rich text editor here. If you write HTML, you might not need it, but most of your users probably don't write HTML. So this gives them a rich text editor to do all that stuff in. IMCE provides the ability to, when you click the image button, it lets you upload images into Drupal straight from here. So from a usability standpoint, it makes it really nice. You don't have to worry about how you tell users how to attach images to nodes and things like that. So as you can see, I can just click on that. And now that image is in there. Now it's in my content. And so this interface is a lot like Word. And it takes some setup, but all the instructions are in the module README. I'm kind of skipping past some of these because some of them, like image attach, and image gallery, are all part of the image module. And I'm skipping past other ones that we're using, but I may not recommend, like in all cases. So, organic groups is really nice if you're doing any sort of site that requires group membership. I'd be careful about when you choose to use it, because it can make the structure of your site a lot more complex. But if you're in the type of site that needs groups, so for example, for the ideal site, every user belongs to a group for their district and their school, and that's going to allow us to send individualized, messages to districts and schools. But I would, just be careful about when you use it because it can add a layer of complexity that you might not need to your site.
Jeff, when you talk about groups, you're talking about groups of visitors to the site, not necessarily groups of people who upload content. Is that right? And I understand that there's an overlap there.
Yeah, it's really groups of users. So if someone has an account within the system, they can be put into a group. And then you can have content that gets published only to a specific group, or gets published to many groups, but not everyone.
Okay. I have a related question that might be a sidetrack, so if it is, feel free to put it off until later on. We were wondering how we'll be able to restrict certain users to be able to edit certain pages, and I understand there's not really a hierarchy anymore. You know, under the sort of contribute model, you restrict their access by folder, and then a certain user can only edit pages in that folder. So we're not really sure how to manage users.
There's I can't remember the name of it, but there's a module that lets you, when you create a page, lets you set access restrictions for that particular page. But you may want to see if, like, maybe the group module would solve it, where, you know, people in this group can edit this set of pages.
Okay.
There's a model for
Just
node
a-
access.
What's that?
There's a model for node access.
Yeah, that's the one.
Node access?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do we use to set up the accounts in this in Drupal?
It depends on how you set it up. We're using WebAuth, a WebAuth module in here, and that lets us, with the WebAuth module, you can tell it to automatically register new users. And then I'm working on, but I haven't finished, an LDAP module that will allow you to, for those of you who aren't familiar with LDAP, it's like the directory provider. It provides information about users, so your affiliation and what department you're in and things like that. So the LDAP module will make it so that you can say users with this, use this value from LDAP to put users into this group, or give them this profile, or give them this access permission. So like you could automatically have a group created out of the user's department, things like that.
What about people off campus?
So like if you wanted to have someone that's a user but they're from off campus.
Right, we're gonna be setting up a collaborative site with people from Stanford and other places, and they want to have a password access only area where the researchers can collaborate together. So is there a module that allows for us to create accounts?
Well, the user module will let you add accounts. They'll just be local to the Drupal system.
That's fine.
Yeah, that may be enough.
Yeah, that's all we need. That's fine.
All right. I should start noting which are the ones I consider to sort of be the essential ones. I already talked about audio, video, and image. Path Auto is one of the modules that I sort of consider you would want to have in every installation. It lets you set up. It takes some configuration, but it lets you set up automatic path naming for any type of content. So going back to the ideal site again, I was able to set it up so that when it makes a group, the path to that group is, the ideal URL / groups / and then the group name. Or you could do like the ID of the group or something like that. And what that allows you to do is sort of have more structure to the URLs of your site. If you want to be able to have paths that users can type in to get directly to content. Profile module is one you might want to enable. It's a core module, but you might want to enable it. It allows you to set up, the first name, last name, interests, hobbies, stuff like that for your users.
Personal pictures.
Yeah, right.
Basically like MySpace. Okay.
I want to say by default the search module isn't enabled, or if it is, you need to change access controls on it to let people use it. But that's a big one for obvious reasons. Yeah, I was going to jump back to that. All right, so that's sort of the big ones. Without talking about the two really big ones, Content Creation Kit and Views are two contributed modules, but they're really big, and they're working on integrating them into the core Drupal. But I sort of consider them to be essential to any site I build. The Content Creation Kit allows you to create new types of content. So when you do a default Drupal install, you get, I think, right out of the box, you get page and story, right?
And book.
Well, you got to enable book and blog, but right. But that's all you get. And so, like for the web community site, we wanted people to be able to submit articles and resources. So for resources, we wanted to consider that a link to a website and a description of that website. And so what it allows you to do is sort of come up with, well, if I was going to have a type of content, it would need to have these fields on it. And I would want to call it this. Another site I've worked on, they needed people to be able to submit videos, but they needed it so that when you submitted a video, you also were able to input a team name, a school that it came from, a description of the project, and then a list of team members. And they all needed to be separate fields in that form. So with the Content Creation Kit, you can do stuff like that. Jump over here. So in 4.7, it's under Administer Content, and then Content Types. And you can see we've created article, resource, and I think Kathy made event. And when I click on this, you can see it's got a title field and a body field. And it's pretty much the same as a Drupal story, but we wanted to call it something unique, and we wanted to be able to filter searches based on that content type and things like that. And I'll show you more about that with the Views module. So there's really, nothing crazy about it. The body field is just a text field. If I go back though and go to resource, you'll see there's a title, there's a URL, and there's a description. And you can see the type for the URL is link. And where that comes from is there are several sort of add-ons to Content Creation Kit that you can download that give you new field types. And so link is another field type. And what it does is when someone goes to create a resource, if they put something into the URL field that isn't a link, it returns an error. It does validation and it says, this isn't a URL, so it's not valid. And there are other things like a date field. People have made other ones like phone number, email address, stuff like that. And so I won't completely create one, but it's really easy to make a new content type. You just click Add Content Type, give it a label and description. Help text is what comes up when you go to the Create Content page, and there's this description of what the content is. And then what you want to call the title field. And so sort of give a use case where you wouldn't want to call it title. For the ideal site, we made a frequently asked questions content type. And so you have the question, which is the title, and then the answer, which is the body text of the note. So, questions about Content Creation Kit?
Can you say one more advantage to the Content Creation Kit is not only does it let you help your users put in the exact information that you need, but you can also then create a template for that content type. So that's a really nice benefit. You can style it differently than any other content types.
So now what I'll do is I'll jump down to views. Views lets you set up views of your content. If you're familiar with querying databases at all or things like that, you're really creating a query of your content. And so you can see here, like, we've got a view that's called articles, and it's a list of articles within the system. Then you provide a URL to that view, and when I click on that, I get a list of all the articles in the system, and it's ordered by last updated. I'll show you what that view looks like. Now, this page is a little bit large, and it might be a little scary, but once you get into it, once you've created a couple of views, you know which parts of the page you need to focus on, and it's a lot easier to create them. So you can say who has access to view this view of the content. So like, for a couple of the sites I've built, we have views of content that are only accessible by administrators. Not because we're concerned about people seeing things they shouldn't see, because if I don't have access to something that would come up in a view, it won't show it. But just because they might be too confusing to users to have them see it. And so then you say, in this page rollout, you say, I want to provide a page view of this query. Here we're using a table view. You can also render it out just like you would normal content, a list of nodes, or you can create an RSS feed out of that view, a calendar view. Some of these things are really fun. And then we want to use the pager because we don't know how many pieces of content we're going to return. If you don't use the pager and you've got thousands of pieces of content that are returned, your page might take forever to load. And you might kill your database. And then the header and footer is where you can sort of do stuff like this. So please choose an article below or filter based on the supplied criteria. If you're logged in, you can add your own articles. And so that is just here in the header.
Just to clarify, how we used views on the community site is when we linked the words in the navigation to a views page. So if you go to articles, then it goes to the view page of articles. So you can access all the articles there. I'm not sure if that was clear or not for everybody.
Yeah. And like with Content Creation Kit and these kinds of modules, like you don't get quick and easy access to the content straight out of the UI. So that's why views is really important, because you want to be able to create these views of your content that are easy for your users to browse. Otherwise, you'd be doing a lot of manual entry of links to content. And then block is, I don't use this very often, but it allows you to create a block that has maybe like the 10 most recent pieces of content for this view. I just don't happen to use it very often. But and then the fields view is sort of the meat of this module. So here I add fields that I want to have show up in the view, and you can reorder them. You see the arrows there. You can say whether or not you can sort that field, whether or not something is the default sort, and then give a title to whatever that field name is. So I'm going to come back here. You can see we've got the category listed, and the title, and the updated date, and the author. Does that make sense? It can be a little overwhelming the first time you see it. So views is one of those things that, like I think Kathy found, like you just have to jump in and use it, and then it totally makes sense once you've used it.
Can you show us briefly how to get back to the page where you're editing the view?
Yeah, you bet. It's just under Administer, and then views. And once you're here, you'll see a list of the views you have available, and you can click edit on a view you've already made, or add to add a view.
Okay.
Do we use views for everything under quick links? I think so.
I don't think we use it for forum, but I think everything else here uses views. We don't have any polls, but yeah, this list of projects. The thing I like about views is you have really quick, easy access to different pieces of the page. So there is something that provides a list of projects already. Go here. But I mean, you know, that's not very user-friendly, right? It's not very pretty. And to edit that, I would have to go in and edit the theme and figure out what's rendering out these things and restyle it, and you know, it'd just be a lot of work. Whereas with views, I was able to give it a nice title, you know, render out this table, add a header that tells users what you're looking at and how to work with stuff within it. And yeah, they're all pretty much the same, but this selector you're seeing for category there, you can expose those filters. So you can see under here I've got filters, and I've set node type to be article, and I haven't exposed that filter. That means I always want it to filter the nodes based on the fact that it's an article. I always want to get back only articles. But I've also added this filter in here called taxonomy terms for the topic. And I've exposed the filter. So you can see here, it shows up down here. And what that allows you to do is have this box show up that's all the taxonomy terms that can be associated with these pieces of content. And then if I only want to see the Drupal articles, I can just filter on those. Does that make sense? And I mean, it's like magic. You don't have to code to do any of this stuff. It's amazing. Yeah. So I guess you probably want to know how to install this stuff. So I'm going to jump into the sites we've done. So this is just one of my dev boxes, but and I'm actually looking at a 5.0 site structure right now. But if you're installing modules into Drupal 4.7, you want to put them into the modules folder. And usually what I like to do with a 4.7 site, actually I can show you a 4.7 site. Nope, maybe I can't. Never mind. The only difference with a 4.7 site is you'll just, instead of folders here, you'll just have like system.module and things like that. Are you pulling that? So what I like to do is in that modules folder, I make another folder called like external, or you know, whatever you want to call it, but it sort of lets you throw all the modules that you're installing additionally into that folder. 5.0 lets you do something completely different and lets you really keep your files more organized. where you've got a folder called, if you've set up a site, you've probably seen the sites folder. And inside that folder is like another folder called default or something like that. Yeah, okay, so you can see here, this is the web community site, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a folder called external. And we just threw the modules in there. Drupal doesn't really care where your modules are at, as long as they're somewhere within this folder for 4.7. So you could throw them in 5 levels of folders if you want to, if you just want to keep them organized. So like you can see, we've got some contributed modules just straight in here. We've also got an ASU folder that, if you click on that, there are modules within that folder. So you can see it's really flexible where you put them. But if you're going to be working with 5.0, I recommend approaching it a little bit differently. You've got a sites folder, and inside that folder by default, I think there's only a default folder. But you can add this folder called all, and what this means is like every site on your Drupal installation should use these things. And you can have a modules folder and a themes folder. So I put my modules in there. And the way it works is...
And that's within the all folder?
Yeah, so it's the path to your Drupal installation /sites/all. And what this means is like all these modules and all these themes should be accessible by all the Drupal sites that are using this code. So let me grab a module real quick. So I'll go ahead and download the audio module. Hopefully this computer has something that can open it. Looks like it might not. Okay. So what you would do is you would download that module, open it up, and it's 5.4. 5. Yeah, this is 5.1. You would open it up, and you'll have a folder sitting on your desktop or wherever you download it to. That's the name of the module. So for the audio module, I would have a folder called audio. All you have to do is take that folder and upload it into that modules folder. And once it's there, yeah, these are the default modules. Sites. Yeah, there you go. My documents, I think. It's okay. I can just show them. Do you guys have questions while we're waiting for him to get there?
Yeah. How's the upgrade process from 4.7 to 5 and stuff like that? Are there things you should avoid doing to make upgrading easier?
Right. What I would suggest if you're gonna be upgrading to 5.0, first I would say find out if you're using any modules that aren't written for 5.0 yet or have not been released for 5.0 yet. All the major modules that I use have already been written for 5.0. and they're already usually a lot better in 5.1. So that'd be the first thing. If you're using a module that hasn't been upgraded yet, then don't upgrade. But the only other thing I would suggest is I would recommend like making a duplicate of your site and practicing with it. The upgrade path, the upgrade is usually pretty painless.
Actually,
you don't want to.
if you're talking about upgrading in, if you have the web hosting account with UTO, you're going to see the upgrades available in Installatron. It's a straightforward upgrade, but we're still testing it with the ASU modules and some of the modules. All your modules have to be updated, but for example, if I want to update this instance, right? If I want to update this instance, I just select right here. See this upgrade button is available to me. I can click on it, it's going to upgrade it to 5.1. Just got to make sure all your modules are updated before you do that. Before or after.
Yeah.
And that will only upgrade your
the core Drupal. Right.
So if you have any contributed modules, you need to upload those yourself. You need to disable all your modules.
Yeah.
Also, disable all your modules before you upgrade.
Yeah, when you do the upgrade, disable all your modules, save that modules page, do your upgrade, and then re-enable the modules after you've reinstalled the new version of them. So it's sort of a three-step process, I'd say. And that's why I recommend doing it on like a dev site first, where you can practice it. Because there's always a chance someone's going to go wrong. Right. Yeah, there's a fun little thing you can do. Like with the Ideal site, we have Friday night outages while we do updates to various things. And if you want to make it so that your site shows up as being unavailable right now, you can go to your site settings and simply switch it to offline, and then users will see like this site is unavailable right now message. What you see by default is kind of ugly. It's like the Drupal logo with a message on it. It's like it's not branded to your site and whatnot, but there are instructions on Drupal.org for making your own maintenance template so that it actually looks decent when you're in maintenance.
Jeff, I've got a few more questions.
Yeah.
One specific to Drupal and a couple of more general about the web community and everything. Do you happen to know of a module? We've been looking around in Rust in my office, hasn't found anything yet, that would do like events registration, not necessarily paying for an event, but just RSVPing to reserve a spot, anything like that?
Sign up.
Sign up? A module called Sign Up?
Put it in for, I don't remember exactly what it's called.
Yeah, we're using it on the other page.
For what?
Well, that's there's
There's a sign up
and
here.
there's also a proposal in
Yeah.
the University of Technology Office.
This is
for
it.
e-commerce solutions outside of this.
So what do they sign up for?
It'll let you on any node at all. It will have a little box there that says allow users to sign up for this.
Oh, okay.
And it actually will show up on all your nodes. So you just, the ones that have to do with announcements about events,
And so you can specify like a cap, like 300 people or whatever, and then
I'm not sure if it'll do that.
yeah, we need something where you could assign a cap, and then the user's contact information be stored in the database somewhere.
Right. See, for most of that, I would say you could do almost all of it by using Content Creation Kit and creating a form that uses use the sign up module to allow users to register for it. I'm not sure about the cat stuff though.
And then, that's helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
And then my other two questions were about this web community. Is that, I'm not sure what the status of both the web community and the actual hosting environment are. Is the web community, I mean, should we be directing people there to get solutions and have conversations at this time?
Yeah. It is active. We are actively pushing forward the web community and the web hosting environment.
So the hosting environment, we have some people developing some applications on it, and can they go ahead and go public with those, or
yeah, they can go public with
those.
those.
Are going to migrate somewhere else later?
They can go public with those, and when we get the full production, we are actually putting finishing touches on the production environment, getting the servers in. When that's done, we will work with you to do a seamless migration over site by site. We'll just go down account by account and start migrating accounts over to full production.
Thank you.
That will say PHP 5.
We're trying to get PHP 5 to run actually through direct admin, so it's a little tricky because direct admin doesn't come with PHP 5 by default. And direct admin is actually self-contained, it upgrades itself, but it does not come with PHP 5. So there are ways to get it running with PHP 5. We have to evaluate that and try to make sure it's stable before we let everyone in. The question about having registration safe to register for events, even with or without paying, you could always use an e-commerce module for Drupal. That way we have an inventory of seats in your conference and basically do sign-ups that way.
It's a really, really good idea.
There's also a conference module, but I don't think it's been upgraded to 5 yet.
Okay.
And as far as the web community goes,
a module?
Yes, there is an e-commerce module that lets like mugs, t-shirts, that kind of stuff. But instead of doing mugs and t-shirts, you sell tickets and you can set whatever price you want to set. It's 0 for free registration.
Yeah, that's really good.
And that's ready, and that module's ready for 5.
Yeah, it's 5 version. What's the actually 5 beta 2?
Other questions?
Yeah, let's open it up for questions.
Yeah.
What's
Any
the
questions?
timeline?
Timeline for
Drupal 5 being available and implemented on campus?
we are testing it right now. We are close to finishing the test. We need to make some modifications to the module. Just trying to make sure it works, especially with WebOps. That was the biggest concern. The rest of it is very minor.
So 2 weeks?
If you're not using WebOps, I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. More like 3 weeks.
If you don't intend to use WebOps at all, yeah, it should be fine. It's just the WebOps module that.
Well, and that's for them to have their setup ready as far as what we're going to do in class, John. I would not say 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, as regarding the WebAuth module, though, you could start setting up a site without using the WebAuth module. Just give all your user names, all your users, make their user ID be their ASU Red ID, and you could just start building it now, and then the WebAuth module will just drop in on top of it.
As long as the usernames match up with your WebOps ASU Red usernames.
Tell them not to use that, your issue right password then, right?
Yeah, just don't use your ASU password for now. Check will figure out.
Last pages.
It'd be safe.
If you want
Check doesn't want those. The operation security policy.
We're starting with psychology, so I don't know if you want to wait until we have our lessons on. That was kind of
Other questions?
for us, the concept of how things should happen.
Do you guys like this format
Yes.
of workshop? Yeah?
That's
Okay. Because we were also tossing around the idea of having more like discussion-focused sessions or something like that, but
Maybe later once we've all,
Yeah.
some of us are
Yeah.
not in there, but
right.
might get invited.
What else would you like to see us talk about? I mean, the other thing we've talked about doing is like theming and stuff like that, but that gets more into writing code, so it's not this presentation.
I think also some of the, a couple levels out, a more macro level of administering and architecting space. I think I had posted a note, you know, in class, like I said, we've got 50 some units, and do we really want to give all of them that separate DNS entry, or do we want to put them under a class that, like, as far as what works for them and also as far as what works for us, if we're going to be doing the administrating on all of these 300 some sites, what's the best way for us to set that up? That would help us out a lot.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And also related kind of to theming, just kind of the use of blocks and being able to customize kind of the space between the headers on how you can shift it around, and whether you go to multiple columns or whatever, kind of how you can manipulate that a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the next workshop is going to be about theming, content, mostly content administration, how to organize content on using Drupal. We hope to have the ASU Write module ready by then. I think
it's going to be ready earlier than later.
Yeah.
Because I have to make it work.
So it's going to be a few weeks out. The next workshop is going to be a few weeks out. We have not planned for it right now, but we'll definitely let everyone know once we're ready. Thanks for all.